Dante, how do you feel knowing that you were responsible for the first overtime game of this season? Let's talk about the adrenaline, just everything you felt when you hit that shot.
Yeah, I think, we had an opportunity, obviously. I was talking to coach in the timeout. I was like, what's the play? What are we doing? And he said, just get it, go. And, PJ got the rebound. And for a split second, I was like, do I let PJ get it? I was like, no, just go get it. So I just went and grabbed it and then tried to get the ball to Luka. And obviously I knew they were going to try and double. So it was just about not getting the offensive foul at first and then just setting up my feet. And, Luka's obviously great, knowing that two guys are, going to double him and, trusting his teammates. So.
What does that trust mean to you from Luka and Kyrie?
Yeah, it's big. I think... Yeah, it goes back. It's happened a lot throughout the season. Just missing one shot and they're coming to you like, yeah, shoot the next one. And I think just in those big moments when, you need to knock it down, it just, kind of reminds you of, the times that they've had your back.
I know you jokingly talked about 50% shots.
Yeah.
But how did it feel to be on the good side of that percentage?
Yeah, I obviously joke about that, but, I truly believe that. So it's just a mindset I'm always going to have when I'm shooting. So if I live up to it, it's obviously perfect. It's a really good percentage, but it's just a mindset that I'm always going to have.
When Kyrie gets going like that, what does that do in terms of, first of all, what's it like to see a guy in that kind of rhythm, and then what's it do in terms of kind of the confidence of the team and, the feeling of the, as you guys are trying to come back? Yeah,
I think, obviously, it's, great when you have two players like Luka and Kyrie that can go off like that. And obviously, when Kai gets in the paint, he's mid-range, three, get into the basket, he can do it all. And, they're going to have to make adjustments at some point. And I think that's when it goes back to the trust of him, throwing the ball to us or doing whatever. But, when it's times like that where they're just letting him, cook, like we just let him cook and watch. So.
How enjoyable is that to be someone with a front row seat to watch him?
Yeah, no, obviously it's enjoyable. I think, when he's got it going like that, and I've obviously guarded him in practice, and it's tough. He's so shifty and getting to his spots, and he's hard to block. So we trust him with the ball, and obviously tonight he had the hot hand, so we threw it to him, and he produced.
You guys struggled offensively a little bit to start the game, and then got it going. How much, especially since you're on the weak side, when you guys go 5 out, and how much do you feel the difference in spacing, and how much of an advantage is it that you have the optionality of being able to use Maxey there like you did a lot tonight? Yeah. Obviously, we had a bit of trouble with kind of that 5 rolling and getting into that short pocket. But it's easy adjustments, and I think that's the best thing about Maxey. He can adjust to any defense and play at the rim, play out on the wing, and guard some of the quicker guys. So hats off to Maxey to be able to guard those guys.
If you call that cooking, what do you call the final meal for the 8 points?
Oh man, hopefully it's just cooking now, and once we get to playoffs, it's it's serving the whole meal. So.
Go ahead. Okay, Dante, I love your story. We talked about it earlier this year, but you've been over the past couple of years. How surreal is it that you are about to be on a postseason team making big shots like this? Yeah,
I think it always goes back to the confidence, the confidence in my ability. I think me making the jump over there wasn't, kind of a step down in any sense. It was just a kind of a reassurance thing to go over there and, show what I can do. And, I'm grateful and happy I was able to do that. And then, obviously be fortunate enough to put myself in a position to, help a team, hopefully in this postseason.
Dante, congrats. What about atmosphere in the minutes you played in Serbia? Can you compare this?
It was good. Obviously, over in Serbia, it's a different beast. Dig to the, Dallas fans or everything, it was great in there. But I think, over in Europe, it's a different beast. They're chanting and celebrating, have people that are leading the chants that don't even watch the game. They're just making sure they're chanting. So, it was great. It was loud in there tonight for sure. But it's definitely a different beast in Europe.
that you're playing in those hostile environments prepared you to have the poise that you do today late in games?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, if you've ever played for Partisan and step into a Red Star gym at Peony, it's tough. It's tough. We played a 5-game series against them and played 2 away, and definitely a tough atmosphere. It just felt like they were on the court with them, so it makes it a little bit easier. And hopefully once you get to playoffs, that. I don't think it will reach that atmosphere away, but yeah, definitely prepared me.